always had was, if brothers had knowledge of self, right? How come so many fell victim to the drugs and those elements that we know anyone with a mind knows that those things are harmful?
Well, let's be clear about something, God. And again, before we start on that question, today's mathematics is build or destroy. So we're gonna build, have a real dialogue, and we're gonna destroy all the bullshit and all the myths that's out there in the current of the atmosphere. When you talk about why the brothers and sisters fell victim with all this knowledge, you gotta remember the times we were living in the 60s. We're talking about 63 when Allah came out that mosque, and 64 when he started sharing this knowledge, which is considered to be our year one. And let me rectify this year one thing for most of y'all out there. Your year one is when you got knowledge, that date. That's the year you got knowledge. Don't be telling me you got knowledge in 1964. You wasn't even born yet. Okay? That year one, 10/10/64, was when Prince, firstborn Prince, from what I received, is when he got his knowledge. You see what I'm saying? Which was the understanding. He was the third in that succession, right? So he was the great understanding. If you do 10/10/10/10, you get what? You get 40, right? So we're dealing with a understanding of the culture between the one and the two. And this is according to ABG. If you looked at when we got our signage on the law school, ABG breaks down the order of things and the order of how the first 9 got it. Now, to answer your question, going back, we're talking about a time where drugs was running rampant in the 60s. You're talking about the civil rights movement. You're talking about the nation itself. I'm talking about the Nation of Islam was really on a swing with Malcolm and many others, you know what I'm saying? And Elijah, and a lot of things was happening around that time. Young brothers who got this knowledge before Allah came on the scene was involved in gang life, was involved in turbulent things in the neighborhood. They didn't have father figures. They didn't even have mother figures. They had to figure it all out on their own. Now, when they got this knowledge, which was what I gathered by talking to some who walked with some, they began to open up their horizon like this is a newfound way of thinking. Did that change who they were at that moment? No, right? It takes time to clean yourself up when you're caught up in the midst of a current of an atmosphere that's already destructive, right? Now, we ain't making no excuses for those who had this knowledge purely and still chose to go the alternate route. Some went selling it. Some went selling it and using it. Some became addicted to it. Thought that they can, get high off their own supply. Peace to Biggie. You understand what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, there's a story, and Allah be, all praises due to him, and even in the Naked Truth, which Abu Shahi spoke about, he said that he was a monkey, a turned out monkey, right? And Allah B said it himself that he was the one that put these brothers on heroin. Now, why would a brother who's trying to save you put you on heroin, right? Put you on the same thing that's causing total destruction? I can't explain that. All I can tell you is that's some bullshit. Okay? Here it is, we trying to, and I say trying to because some tried to do like the original man and fell victim to it. Okay? That's in your 38th degree, right? Fell victim to the devil's civilization. It's the same thing like motherfuckers sticking pins with the COVID-19, right? The 28th degree talks about sticking pins in a baby's brain. Yet, you got brothers who say they got knowledge and took the COVID-19 anyway. Okay, 19. For those who forgot what 19 means, self a savior. COVID means a covert operation, a mandate, and they fell victim to that. Now, why did they do that, God? I can't answer for them, but I can tell you this. It lets me know, and for those who are truly in depth with this, that they didn't study their mathematics correctly. They did not take this shit the way they should have. And I say this shit, not this shit, but I'm talking about the shit that they're in is because their minds, as well as where they were at, maybe they had some troubled backgrounds. Maybe they was traumatized as a kid. This was their way out. Who knows? Nevertheless, once you get this knowledge, you're not supposed to go backwards. You're supposed to be going forward. So why did they fall victim, God? Some didn't have the strength to realize. They thought that they could master the drug. The drug ended up mastering them. You know what I mean? Because once you get that type of drug, cocaine, heroin, and whatever else was out there at the time, other than weed, you know what I mean? It wasn't tainted with all the shit that's tainted it with now. It was some natural shit at the time, you know what I mean, per se. That was the closest thing you got to a controlled substance. But again, did we have and do we have guards that are still addicted to alcohol, drugs, and everything else? Yes. And do they need to clean themselves up? Yes. But how do they do it if they don't know how to get the help? A lot of them are so prideful, they don't want to ask for help, right? And you can't be prideful when you need help. Help is help. You know what I mean? And you got to make sure that if you see a brother or sister that's fallen victim, as I said in the first part of this conversation with God, was that, don't be afraid to ask for the help. Ask for the help. Some of y'all need it. You know what I mean? Some of y'all need help and support from your brothers and sisters to get you to the next level. And the worst thing in regards to this question and why they did drugs with all this knowledge, because again, when Allah unfortunately became a martyr and got murdered in that elevator, brothers felt like, man, it's all over now. Now we don't have no one, we don't have a father figure. We don't have no one we could turn to now. So they turned to what they knew best, drugs, to escape their own pain. A lot of people were very, very shocked when Allah returned the way he returned, for what I gather. And then at the same time, some hope and despair was lost before we did the Christmas party in the desert, right? Now, this is not taken away from Medina. It's not taken away from Pelon. It's not taken away from anyone. But you got to come through the desert, right? And you look at all the prophets and all the so-called messengers, they went through the desert to get right. You know what I mean? They had to come through the desert to get right. Moses too, by the way. Even Jesus had to come through the desert to get right. Now, is that saying that, well, Queens was the all in all? No, I'm saying that in Queens, it was a certain way that we live. We more middle class, upper class. Does not take away from nobody else and how they live. But Queens and the neighborhoods we were from were mother and father was there, per se. You had, a certain environment that was better. Did we still have the drug game go on in the 80s? Of course. The Supreme Team is a total example of that. Brothers who had knowledge, was swift in knowledge, but they got caught up. And unfortunately, as I said in the bill that you did when you did an interview with me when I took you out there, when you came out there to do that interview prior to, for those who didn't see it, make sure you see it, Life of Law in the Desert, filmed again by the God Jarul. I took them to these various places. I even took them to our old school where we had a law school on 150th Road in South Jamaica, Queens. Really, what? Knowledge in God. And 150, it was the knowledge and power of what God was doing. So if you add that, 1 5 is 6, 1 7 is 8, 8 and 6 is what?
8 and 6, 14.
So knowledge in the culture, right? So mathematically, this area right here was central to where the God's beloved, you know what I mean, who was the editor of Word magazine. This is where they began, right here, on this whole corner right here.
So Beloved's the one who did the bomb, right?
The bomb and the Word, and I got his number. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of brothers, man. Like I keep saying, and as I said earlier in our introduction, a lot of brothers, man, from Queens really put it down, man.
Right.
Queens brothers. I'm telling you, Queens brothers, man, and not to, toot my own horn, we make it happen. It ain't no question. We make it happen. Well, we had the guards on one side and the drug dealers on the other side. And it was a big conflict back then. So, like I said, long story short, God, not to be too long-winded, is that I think a lot of it is a lot of the pain that they went through. You had some of the firstborn of Medina, they died of alcoholism and their liver messed up and their health deteriorated. And you might see some old footage on YouTube and things like that where brothers talking about health is key and how they fell victim to a lot of things. Even some of the firstborn, as I said, fell victim to the drug game. You know what I mean? As users, abusers, and everything else. What does that say about those who say they got knowledge? This is why, you know, when you go into the mosque, for those who are in the mosque, the first thing they do is they clean you up and make sure that you ain't doing no drugs, you ain't selling nothing, you ain't doing nothing. If you do, you get punished. Right? There's a certain consequence that come with that. Am I saying that a lost nation also need to have that? Have some form of discipline that when you fuck up, excuse my French, or when you're doing something that's not right and exact, you got to get corrected. Because babies are watching. The women are watching. Yeah. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, some of these women, the earths, you know, like I said, have moved on to the mosque to find solid men. Men that's gonna protect the women, not beat up their women and doing all types of things to the earth. So yeah, God. So like I said, you know, as it relates to that, I recognize that a lot of it has to do with internal pain. The sign of the times, they didn't have no other way out. And again, there's no real excuse. When you have knowledge of self, there is no excuse. You know what I mean? But the key is they got to get help. And I really acknowledge that they need help. Some of them need help right now because some of them are still doing it. You know, unfortunate to say.